What's up, YouTube? Northeast. Back for some grading talk. Let's have a little chat today. So what I want to do today, it's been a few months since we've done one of these. So we're going to kind of do a state of grading cards in Q4 2020. We're going to take a quick look at the three major companies, where we sit with them, how they're doing. Spoilers, all terrible. Where prices are sitting at, etc., as we begin to move into a fresh NBA season. Before we get into that, like, comment, sub, YouTube nonsense down below, etc., etc. You guys been crushing on the like button, crushing it on the sub button. Keep it up. Let's get to 2K subs. Let's get to 100 and some likes. Just do your stuff down below. All right, let's do it. So, what kind of prompted this? I've been wanting to do this for a while, and then there's been some rumblings the last couple weeks, and I mentioned this briefly on a previous video that SGC had kind of slightly tweaked some stuff with what they were doing, and then just yesterday, Beckett, or maybe it was even today, Beckett changed some things, but they really didn't. Beckett renamed their service levels, but they didn't really change anything. And then PSA had the big shakeup about a month or so ago at the beginning of October there, I believe that was. So, or 2 months ago almost now. So let's just kind of take the temperature of where we are. For those that are new to grading, we'll start at the beginning. There are basically three primary companies: PSA, BGS, and SGC. To some shape or form, people will have personal preferences, etc. Let me get this out of the way. When I talk about these companies, I'm talking about them from the perspective of ultra modern cards for the most part. So your ultra modern NBA, your 2018, 2019 Prisms, optics, etc., that sort of stuff. Some of these grading companies have different niches in vintage or autos, etc. We are looking at it from the aspect of grading a Luka base rookie card or a soon-to-be LaMelo Ball base rookie card or a silver or whatever. So that's the angle that we are taking. We are not looking at this from a PC perspective. We are looking at this from who should I send cards to then go and sell perspective or / invest perspective. So that's get that out of the way so I don't get hates and whatever in the comments. Every time I do a grading video, gets a little dicey down there, guys. Gets a little dicey. People get a little persnickety. So SGC recently has told their bulk submitters to, hey, we're going to call timeouts and get you guys caught up. For those that aren't aware, SGC is the semi-newer kid. They're not new. They've been around for like 30 years, 20 years. But they've recently, at the beginning of this year, made a big push to get into modern. It sounded all rosy, and then they kind of shot themselves in the foot. We're not going to do a deep dive on that. I've covered it a ton. They are a little grading company that could. Their biggest appeal early on was fast turnaround times and $10 pricing. Their fast turnaround times evaporated extremely quickly, and they are way behind. They are, I believe, in June right now in regards to processing their backlog. They prioritize bulk submissions. So if a bulk submitter submits, or you submit through a bulk submitter or group submitter, you will most likely get your cards faster back than submitting on your own. They prioritize those people. I personally don't like that, as I don't typically like to use group submitters. I would rather submit on my own and do first in, first out, depending on your service level. But SGC does not see it that way. The thing that they have recently done is they have told their bulk submitters, hey, can you guys stop sending to us for the rest of the year? We want to get caught up for the beginning of next year. And they have some new wave new whatever marketing push scheme that they want to roll out for the first of the year. Maybe they'll crush it. I hope they do. Competition is good in the market. And as someone that does have some SGC slabs, I would like to see their prices rise. Speaking of prices, we're going to get into that at the end. We're going to go through the three companies, And then we're going to take a look at kind of where pricing sits for all three cards, because that plays a big factor into this in regards to who you should submit your cards to. So the other thing that SGC has done, and this was just recently to the best of my knowledge, I do not refresh their pricing page on a daily basis, but I've talked to a couple people, and prior to this, they had a $10 sub $250 declared value, which is what most people use. That is no longer an option. The cheapest option to grade with them is $15 or the $100 to get it back in 2 days, which no one in their right mind would use for modern cards. So now you're essentially looking at $15 a card with a 65 to 70 business day turnaround time. And I am still not sure that that is 100% accurate. I think it's closer to 80, but they're at least giving you a better idea than when it said 20 for 3 months, when that was not the case. So we'll give them a little credit there. So that's where we're at with SGC. The pros to SGC. It was that they were the cheapest when you submitted through a group submitter, because you could get it for about $8, $8.50. I forget what it was exactly, but right around $9 a card. To get cards graded, that's pretty cheap. Cheapest you're going to find. Unfortunately, they've put the pause button on that. Whether it comes back, we don't really know. And before you could submit on your own for $10 a card, and that's now gone away. So the cheapest is $15 a card with a pretty hefty turnaround time. Just real quick, if you're going to spend $15 a card for SGC on your own, you could go through a group submitter with PSA for about $15 to $18 a card through bulk. It's probably going to, not probably, it will take longer, most likely. You're probably looking at 6 months. But spoilers, as we will see here in about 5 or 10 minutes, the value that you could get back on that slab is exponentially higher. So they have that not going for them, really. Those are the cons. The biggest con to SGC is the market does not respect the slab. For the purposes of submitting cards on your own, that's just kind of where they sit at the moment. So $15 level at 65 to 70 business days turnaround time, which is about what everybody's at right now. Some are longer. That's kind of where you're sitting at with SGC. Poor resale value on the back end. And their cards are also not extremely liquid. It's hard to get the value that you think they should be worth when you start looking at like what PSA 10s are go for compared to an SGC 10. And I'm not going to lie, kind of makes you cry a little bit on the inside. Let's move on to Beckett. Oh, good old Beckett. Beckett. They are the hottest mess of the three, and it is not even close. Not even close. So with Beckett right now, the two standard levels that people were going to be using is that the previously called 10-day service, they just call it standard now. They basically just changed their names around. Before, it used to be very day-based, so it was a 10-day service, 30-day service. Well, they weren't coming anywhere close to those, so they basically just copied PSA and the other ones, and they're just called standard and economy now. For the most part, all these companies on the ultra-fast stuff are doing okay-ish. Super Express through PSA, Premium and Express through BGS, and the SGC 2-day level, I believe, are all, they might not be hitting it exactly, but you're getting them back fairly quickly. We're mostly talking about the normal, I want my cards back in a few months submission levels. So, Beckett, you have two choices. You have standard, which is $40 a card, and economy, which is $30 a card. Standard, $40 a card, used to be quote unquote 10-day. Guess what? It hasn't been close to 10-day for months. And economy used to be 30-day. I did some digging around. Currently, they are, from best I can tell, economy orders, they are still on orders from May. The first 3 weeks of May. I did some digging on some forums and some Facebook groups and some group submitters, etc. And they're on May orders for their quote unquote 30-day service at the most expensive to grade at. Well, there's an asterisk there. one of the most expensive to grades at $30 a card for an economy level service. Yikes. And then their quote unquote 10-day service at $40 a card. I looked at some of that, and those are taking at least 2 months, if not longer, for 10-day service. I've seen people with orders back to August and July that haven't had any movement on orders yet on the 10-day service for $40 a card. Beckett, to me right now, does not exist when it comes to going to submit a card. If I'm going to look today to submit a card, Beckett isn't even an option. To be frank with you, SGC is barely an option. We'll talk about that more in a second. So that's Beckett. They're essentially a disaster. I do like their slabs. I kind of like the subgrades. I hate that their most common grade is 9.5. People just don't want 9.5s. They want 10s. Even though most BGS 9.5s would be PSA 10s, it is what it is. The market has spoken, and they want a 10 in the corner, not a 9.5. That's the biggest thing killing Beckett. That and their turnaround times have been a just straight mess, and they have put no effort into trying to fix it. As much crap as I give SGC, at least they tried. They had terrible communication while doing it, but at least they did something. And PSA also finally starting to do something. Once again, terrible communication around it. Took them a while, but they're at least trying, while Beckett is just, I don't even know. I don't even know. They are just a disaster right now. So, PSA. We had the big PSA video at the beginning of the month. They have suspended economy service. Value the $10 per card. You can only get if you are a silver member or higher. Regular memberships are sold out. The gold and platinum, I believe they are called. So you can't purchase those. That was one of the changes made. You can purchase silver, which unlocks the ability to get the $10 per card. However, it is turnaround times may vary with the demand, with a max declared value of $199, which is pretty low. Almost any good Prism base rookie, let alone a silver, is going to blow through that. So for the purposes of this conversation, I don't know that that really exists. Economy no longer exists. There's a big red explanation point here. Service is suspended as they try to catch up. For you and me, if I just wanted to click submit on an order right now, their cheapest option, other than the $10 per card, is regular service at $50 per card, which is quote unquote 25 business days. I believe it's been running a little closer to 2 months when you factor in shipping and stuff, from best I can tell, which isn't terrible, but $50 per card is extremely cost prohibitive. So as we discussed in that video, and if I'm good at YouTube, I will link to that here, but you guys have probably seen it already. Essentially, the way that you basically have to use PSA right now is through a group submitter. Group submitters get special rates, and they could get you regular service for, depending on who you use, anywhere from $25 to, let's say, $28 a card to upwards of $30 a card. Still pretty pricey, but much more reasonable compared to $50. And you're also getting it a little faster turnaround time because it's regular service at 25 business days. So you should be getting it in around 2 months total, depending once again on shipping times to and fro. So you have SGC at $15 a card, Beckett at basically $30 a card, and PSA, for the purposes of this, we're going to say that you use a group submitter because it's really the only way to do it, unless you're submitting Super Express or something like that on your own. So a group submitter you could get for between $25 and $30 a card. So SGC 15, and let's just call Beckett and PSA the same at $30 ish to keep this simple. So now let's look at pricing. So, because when you want to submit a card for grading, there's 2 steps to it. How much is it going to cost, and when am I going to get it back, is step 1. And step 2 is what's the market think of these slabs once I get it back and I go to sell this thing? That's where things get a little bit more tricky. So SGC $15, Beckett and PSA, we'll call it an even 30. But with PSA, you're getting that card faster, much, much faster, probably 3 months faster, going through a group submitter at regular service for around 25 to 30-ish bucks. Whereas Beckett, you might be able to get a little discount on the price with a group submitter, but their group submitters turnaround times are still a disaster. At least the ones that I follow on Facebook, etc. So let's look at some resale values. We typically use Zion. I pulled Ja this time just to kind of mix things up a little bit. So we're in Market Movers, link down below, coupon code down below if you want to check it out for yourself. And I have pulled up Ja Base Prism 2019, PSA 10, PSA 9, BGS 9.5, SGC 10, Raw. They don't have SGC 9.5 in the system. I sent an email seeing if we can get that added in, but I did look up SGC 9.5s on 130 point. I have a tab open with that. So this is being recorded on November 11th, 10th for future people watching this. So these market prices could vary, but I don't necessarily see the gaps changing anytime soon. So a raw Morant Prism, if you have one sitting in front of you and you would like to get it graded, goes for around $110, give or take. All right, cool. Who do I want to send this thing to? PSA is going to cost me $30. BGS is going to cost me $30. And SGC is going to cost me $15. SGC and Beckett are probably running close to the same turnaround times. Actually, SGC is probably faster. SGC is looking at about 80 business days, let's call it. That's essentially 4 months. Beckett is running at about 5 to 6 months, and a PSA regular service is running at about 2 months. So PSA is going to cost me the most, tied with Beckett, but they're going to get it back to me the fastest. SGC is going to be the cheapest and be in the middle in regards to turnaround time. Beckett's going to be the most expensive and take the longest. Bad combination. So let's look at some resale prices. Okay, so you have your Ja, and you say, well, that SGC sounds pretty good. $15 a card. I'll get it back in 4 months. That doesn't sound too bad. And let's say you could pull a 10. Awesome. SGC 10 in a base Morant sells for $278. Not bad. $300, almost $300. Here's the problem. Let's talk about the SGC 9.5. SGC 9.5s are currently going for around 150. We see a 155, a 143, a 160, a 125, a 150, so on and so forth. That is not that much more than raw. And in fact, it's slightly more than what a PSA 9 goes for. PSA 9s going for about $130. So maybe you get an extra $20 out of that SGC 9.5. All right. If you could pull the SGC 10, you're looking at $278. That's pretty good. Cool. That's, yeah, great. Awesome. Let's compare that to Beckett. Beckett BGS 9.5, $325. So a BGS 9.5 is selling for more than an SGC 10. That's not great. In my personal opinion, SGC 10s should sell for slightly more than a BGS 9.5. In a perfect world, they would be right in between a PSA 10 and a BGS 9.5. I don't know that we ever get there, but at least they should be going for the same price as a BGS 9.5. At minimum, I feel like that should be the price. But the market just does not respect their slab, and that's what gets frustrating about SGC cards. Because you get them back and you're like, yes, I got a Morant SGC 10, sweet, $275. And then you see that a PSA 10 sells for almost $420. So you left $125, let's call it $130 on the table. And this amplifies as you get into bigger and bigger cards. Like if this was a silver, etc., you're leaving even more money on the table. So it would have cost you an extra $15 to grade with PSA, and you would have made 130 more. So subtract out the $15 more that it would have taken. You're at $115 more. And you also got the card back around 2 months faster than you would have with SGC. So not only is it selling for more and quite a bit more, you're also getting it back faster. All right, let's compare the PSA 10 to a PSA 9. PSA 10 going for around $420. PSA 9 going for 130. PSA 9, BGS 9 usually sells for close to raw, so I didn't even pull it up on here. The concerning thing is the SGC 9.5 only going for around 150. To me, that should probably be closer to, in this particular example, I feel like that's probably like a $200 card, maybe more. But the market just does not feel that way. Now, people, the Beckett people down below, calm yourself. What about the BGS 10 and what about a black label? And the SGC people, what about SGC gold labels? Guys, those are fairy tales. They exist, don't get me wrong, but it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You could not submit to SGC or Beckett and think you're going to get a BGS 10 or a black label or an SGC gold label. It is unrealistic. Go look at the pop counts for them and then come back at me. Yes, a black label and a gold label sell for more than a PSA 10. 100%. You got me. Guess what? You're probably not getting one. So calm yourselves down. And I'm not trying to be PSA fanboy here. I'm really not. I think they're annoying as well and have a whole lot of shenanigans going on with them. But the data is the data. If SGC starts out selling PSA, I'll move all my business to SGC. No problem, full stop. But we're in this to make money. That's the angle of this channel. And that's the angle of the content that I produce and the advice, quote unquote advice. I don't even want to, the fact that I even give advice sounds scary. That's the angle that we take here is that we are in this to make money, to carve out a little profit and use that profit to spend on the hobby, whether that be for a PC or for something else or a new monitor or whatever the hell you want to do with it. And if you're in this to make money, it does not make sense to use anybody but PSA right now, where we stand in Q4 2020. This could absolutely change. But as of right now, that is not the case. If you wanted to submit a job-based Prism, your best bet is PSA through a group submitter is the key catch in that. When you talk about submitting on your own and you're looking at $50 a card, then some other things start to come into play. In all honesty, though, depending on the card, if it's a bigger card like a Ja or a Zion or a Tyler Hero or a Luka or a Trey, you're probably still going to pay the PSA price to get it back. I will say SGC, I believe, if they could get their group submissions open back up again, is viable for really low-end stuff right now. Like Luka inserts, like out of Mosaic, like a silver Mosaic Luka got game or a LeBron Jam Masters or whatever. Like that sort of stuff, I think is perfect for SGC. You could spend the $8 to $10 a card. Now, this doesn't exist right now, and this is assuming that this comes back. But I think you could really grind out nice profits playing the low-end game with SGC. Now, when it comes to buying cards, whole different story. This is strictly talking about submitting. When it comes to buying, I love looking at SGC slabs, 10s and 9.5s. In my mind, the SGC 9.5, and I made a video about this, is the most undervalued slab on the market, and it is not even close. It is not even close. You could buy SGC 9.5s and crack them and send them to PSA to try to get PSA 10s. I basically look at as someone's already taken a look at this card versus buying raw. I'm paying a slight tax to essentially have this card like raw card reviewed like Beckett used to do. They still do it, but no one uses it. Because I could buy a John Morant for 110. I could buy an SGC 9.5 for 150. I could take that one. I spent 150. It's an SGC 9.5. I crack it, spend another 30 to send it to PSA. So now I'm into the card for, let's say, a 180. Let's say it comes back a PSA 10 and it's a $420 card. That's a pretty nice return on that. Yeah, it's a lot of messing around. You know, you got the 2 months of it grading. It's no assumed thing that a SGC 9.5 is going to come back a PSA 10. But if you submit 10 of them, I'm going to guess at least 7 out of 10 are going to come back as PSA 10s. Just a guess. So that's where we sit, guys. That's where we're at right now with card grading. So if you were wondering where you should submit your cards to, hopefully this helps you out a little bit, gives you a little bit of information. Long story short is they all suck. They're all backed up. We're all at their mercy. It's a rigged game. I don't want to say it's a rigged game, but it's out of our control. You send your cards off and then they just kind of do whatever they want with them and then eventually get them back to you with no regard for turnaround times. Now they're all saying they want to get turnaround times better for next year. And that would be nice to see. We'll see what happens. So that's all I got for you guys today. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, comments down below. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.